Coming up on the Together for Good podcast, my friend Nick Stroczkowski. He is a filmmaker. He has his own production company in Buffalo, New York. He and I used to work together at a church in Buffalo when I was there. And he's stayed a longtime friend ever since. But we sit down to just kind of talk about the entire church experience, as well as his experience moving from this church work into filmmaking, and him kind of getting older, maturing, and coming to just process a lot of what life is about and what we're even trying to do here. It's wide ranging. It is all over the place. And it's really powerful in a lot of ways. Nick has always had a way of articulating his understanding of the world that's just so unique, which is why I wanted to bring him on and share this with you. And so I'm so excited for you to get to listen to it and to watch it, and to just kind of hear us back and forth banter on these things like we used to do for hours in the church office 20 years ago now, it seems. 15 years ago now. Anyways, this is Nick Stroczkowski, a filmmaker from Buffalo, my longtime friend. Can't wait for you to watch it. Here we go. Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good. So past Nick told me a story once, and it's probably from Ram Dass or Alan Watts, like knowing you. And it was that this person worked their whole life to get the corner office. And then when they got there, there was this like box on the table, and this person had this key that they'd been carrying around forever. And they knew once they got the corner office that this key would unlock everything. And they go and they take out the box on their first day in the corner office, and they unlock the box and they open it, and it's totally empty. And but that's kind of the point. It's just like, yeah, like we put all of these futuristic wish dreams into our mind, and we say, once that happens, then I will be fulfilled, happy, whatever. And the game all along has been figuring out how to just enjoy what you actually have in the moment, what's right in front of you, because the box is always empty in the end. And it doesn't, there's no, what I like about that little parable is there's nothing wrong with the pursuit of that, the drive to get there. The corner office itself isn't like deadly flawed. It's not like, oh, it's hell. That would not be the same parable. It's like, no, like, and like you did it. Good for you. Like now you got 40 more years to grind in the corner office. This whole, tell all it's all the stories that we hear growing up. It's all the happily ever afters, but we never hear that spelled out. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Like Snow White and Prince Charming, like they got into a fight once a month about who was going to do the dishes. Like, because that's what marriage is. Mm-hmm. But we brushed off like, no, it's happily ever after and everything is perfect and fulfilled. Like it never is. It never is. But can you still learn to be satisfied and happy there, and not just constantly thinking that contentment is somewhere else besides right here?
Yeah, it's really difficult to do that for some reason. I mean, at least for me, I think it's difficult for a lot of us, but it's definitely difficult. Yeah, it's like many romance movies end with the marriage and the credits roll. They walk up the aisle and credits roll and everyone's like, oh my God, they did it. It's like they got to figure out how they're going to arrange their bedroom after that, though. Like, how are they, like, they got to, like, for some reason, his wife just, instead of using the slightly wider slots in the dishwasher for like the flatware that is too wide to fit in they stuff it through the small slot. So then every time you unload the dishwasher, this is not a real story. That you have to pull them all out with two hands when you could just put them in the bigger slots so you can like get them all. It's amazing what you end up caring a lot about when your relationship's actually pretty healthy. But all like the fancy mob movies and business movies end with the new thing starting and it's all good. Yeah, I think I was a little gobsmacked by hitting my big goal, like the movie ending, and then it just you got to go to work tomorrow. You got to
Yeah.
keep it down. Yeah, I have experienced the entering the corner office and opening the box and it's empty. And I talked about that forever and literally told you that parable forever ago. And then
You did? Okay.
I did it. And I believed there'd be something in that box. It's like the strangest thing to not believe your own.
Yeah, but it's just it,
Yeah.
it illustrates how persistent that is, and that even if you are aware of this phenomenon, you still fall into it. I mean, I've been talking about this for a couple of years now, and I feel like I'm much more fulfilled and much more present than I ever used to be. And I still find myself doing this. I'm like, oh my gosh, if just this one thing could be different, then everything would be all right. It's like, no, like it won't be. It won't. We can stop trying to play that game. But then here's my question for you. So what are we to do with it in the meantime? Knowing that we're still going to fall into this mindset and want something to be different, like how can you best show up despite the fact that like our human brains just want to do that again and again?
Uh, Current Nick is a lot more humble than younger Nick used to be, but it's crazy that my immediate gut response is that I don't know. I
Yeah.
definitely try. And there's definitely some days where I'm just doing the tasks and I'm like watching myself do it and it's getting done and it's like, wow, I can like do all this stuff and feel pressure to hit a deadline and like, no, I gotta do this and do that after work. And I feel like really grounded and like feet on the ground, really in the moment, just recognize and like feeling the joy in that. I do feel that. But right now in my journey, I wouldn't say it's as intentional as it could be. And I think it took me a really long time to unlearn a lot of guilt around that. Like there's something I need to drop or get rid of or completely change in my life to live in that present moment, that joy of just watching the things happen
Yeah.
all the time. It's like I'm doing something terribly wrong. I don't feel guilty about it anymore because I think I'm just tired and busy and so much stuff has changed in the past few years that like, well, like really 2 years, honestly, it's like I got launched out of a cannon into a world that I didn't know how to function that well in. Um,
Are you
and
talking about the birth of your first child?
yeah,
Or are you
all,
talking
yeah, being a dad,
that's a part of it, right?
yeah, being a dad, death of a parent, like being finally staying on top of medical things that I've been ignoring and, uh, crazily growing up. It's like I think when you don't have as much on your plate, it's super easy to look around at the world and go, man, everybody just needs to sit and breathe for 10 minutes and they'll just cool off, baby. It's just not. Now that I'm a little older and in kind of like in it more, I don't know. I don't think there's a separate reality we get to pop into that breaks us away from the capitalism thing, from the busy brain thing, from the stress, from all that. I hope
Yeah.
that doesn't sound nihilistic. I think it's more me
So
getting humbled.
yeah, I
Like,
think that's the tension. I'm glad you bring in nihilism because it is also, I don't think what either of us is talking about is that you just have to like just be okay, right? Like, hey, your life's terrible and just accept it. It's more nuanced than that, right? Like, because sometimes you do need to make big changes, and sometimes, yes, you will be happier if you make the move, you quit the job, you allow the relationship to end. Sometimes those are very good and healthy things. And it's just so hard to tell in the midst of it, what is this, just your busy brain going on overload and thinking things will be better and you not learning to be grateful for what you have? Or is your busy brain actually pointing you in the right direction and it would be really healthy to do something big and drastic in order to get out of the unhealthy space that you're in? And I don't know. I mean, you mentioned spiritual practice. I feel like that helps with the discernment of this. Overall, of just, yeah, sitting, breathing, coming to a quiet space just helps you zoom out a little bit. But it's not a cure-all. That's not the
Annoyingly not a cure-all, which is genuinely disappointing for me. I like, because I used to, like, wax I mean, especially to you, and used to live around here. It's like waxing romantically to you about, gurus and monks and all these people sitting in caves, just disappearing into the mountains for months, not speaking, just sitting, not eating, just, all this mystical stuff. And like, that was something I was strangely aspiring to. Um, but I think Ram Dass says it. He says that uh, he did that. He like went into this like far out Buddhist place and sat in a cave for months. And he said during a talk that he was bored. He was just like, it was boring, and then it's like, and then I just looked at the boredom, and then I just was bored. But then I was like watching the boredom, and it was like ecstatic joy, staring at it, how intensely, wildly out of his mind bored he was. And it's like, to pull back a little bit and look at the not great thing happening kind of takes away power. I think that's what he was more trying to say. And instead of me trying to ditch all this stuff and like get rid of it with the spiritual practice, like the purifying power of the spirit, like, I don't know what's getting purified except my awareness moving away from the not super cool stuff to the cool stuff. I think that's part of it. But like, seeing my awareness back and out to go like, that's really not great.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Not
Period.
like, that's really not great. I can't wait to get rid of it. That's or not looking at the really bad thing and trying to do things to burn it and get rid of it. Awareness pulling back and going, that thing's really bad.
So, and maybe that's the trick. I'm just piecing some parts together based on what you're saying, in that sometimes what we have right now is actually pretty good, but we're dissatisfied with it because we think there could be something better. Sometimes what you have is really bad, and it's okay to need to move on from that. And that's kind of where the discernment is really happening. What I always tell people is, don't mess with happy. Like, I had some friends a couple of years ago, and they're like, yeah, we're thinking of moving from this town, 5 hours east, and it would do this and it would do this. And that's what I said. I'm like, well, what I always say is, like, don't mess with happy. And they're like, oh, yeah, like, we are kind of happy in our town. We don't need to make this big move, because there's no guarantee that you'll be happier in the new space. Your brain tells you that you will be, but there's no that never actually plays out the way that your brain programs the movie in your mind. And yet, so the flip side is, if you're really unhappy, if things are really hard, maybe that is the moment to be like, okay, let's move on from this. So with all of it, spiritual practices, you texted me. This is why I wanted to bring you on too. You texted me a couple months ago, I think, where you're just like, hey, I think I just decided, like, I just really want, like, church, like, in all its normalcy and boredom. I just think that that's a really good space. Do you remember sending me this text?
Yeah. Well, it's like, I forget exactly what I said, but it's just like, yeah, I miss just reading the bold print, man. Like, I don't know what it is. Look, sometimes, like, I'm still very involved in all sorts of ministry stuff, but
Yeah.
I like miss it. Yeah.
What do you think that's about? What is it about, like, especially at this stage of life for this Nick, that all of a sudden that it is becoming compelling again?
I think some of it is removing control from me, because I think, like, I've always aspired to be in a leadership role and always kind of have been and like it. And, I think good enough at it that things are going pretty well, but sometimes I don't want to be in charge or be told what to do next. I think that's a small part of it, but I think some of it is I get to have ambience around me, even ambient noise that's like rooted in something, what feels to me very powerful. And yeah, like it's always hard to say, but like, no, I've got like 7.5 minutes in me for a sermon when I'm listening. Like I got like 7.5, 8 minutes. That's no insult to your probably tight 10 up there, which it should be around a tight 10. If your pastor's doing 15 minutes sermon, nobody cares after 10. I'm sorry. I know that sounds brutal, but what is some we know said like that better be the best sermon you've ever preached in your entire life if it goes over 10.
Yeah, that was my internship supervisor. That's what he told me. Charlie Bang. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Shout out.
absolutely correct. But like even when the sermon's going on, I'm very much so listening, but it gives me space. I'm sitting on my butt. There's sort of an ambience of spirituality happening around me, and it gives me that one moment to be like immersed in that space and kind of like decompress stuff in my head and ponder what I really want. Like that's, I think, what's rattling in my brain for like a year now. Is like, what do I really want? And I think at the end of the day, I don't want to be the really cool cinematographer on a super expensive set with like great behind the scenes photos I get to share on Instagram. That's cool. But I think at the end of the day, I just want to quietly sit in a room with people and like hear about something mystical and be reminded that this is a very interesting game we're playing.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, even again, like if I get to work on these, $250,000 commercial shoots and like get those behind the scenes photos and show everybody that I finally made it, I think I'm going to die. It's like and not a, we all have a different relationship with death. I'm personally not super freaked out by it, but it's like,
Huh?
It's like, those are hard jobs, man. I've been on a couple now. Those are really hard jobs. And sometimes I don't like it as much. It's like,
Yeah, you like the ego boost of look at me, I'm doing the thing, but it's actually you kind of tell why those people get paid so much because it's so intense.
oh yeah, you get your butt kicked. But all to say that sitting in a church and sitting in a pew and being in this space is a distinct reminder of what I really want and what I think God really wants for us. And like, I mean, who am I to say that? But I just have a feeling that God wants me to be quieter, to just hug my kid harder, hold my wife's hand harder. It's actually weirdly straightforward, where then my brain goes, there's no way. Suffered, and I was so into that when I was younger, and it's just like, it's gonna burn, baby, and it's burning anyway. It's like now, it's just like, dude, I had to work late 2 days, the 2 nights before this. Oh my God, dude, I am not into that at all. Nothing productive happened except getting projects out, which is like whatever, but the burning didn't solve anything in me. So it's like church reminds me that like, I'm not here to like burn and be cleansed and all this. I'm here to like, it's actually pretty straightforward for me.
I love this. So what does church look like at its best? Because what you're describing, you're talking about it in a lot of really interesting ways. And that's not always where church goes. Like, I love your point of, hey, I just want to like sit and be quiet and be still and hear something mystical. But in the same sense, like sometimes church is just like loud and over programmed, and the sermon is just about not anything mystical. It's just kind of word salad. Well, I mean, and you've been to church services like that. We've been to church services like that together. We've led church services like that.
I've led some real bad stuff, man. Just, like I'd say like a banger 1 out of 10. Everything else was like, then 7 were like fine, and then 2 were just bad. Like they talked about it in the car on the way home bad. And they're like, okay. Nate and Nick really going for it with that singing thing.
But that, I mean, hey, we'll get to that. I do want to talk about that because that singing thing speaks to what we're talking about, which is why it was so powerful, I think. But what do you do when church isn't that? Like this is also why I think a lot of people just write it off. It's like, okay, like you guys are all doing your own church thing, but it's really just another expression of, to circle back, right, the capitalist system that is oppressing me and that I hate. And so why would I want to participate in anything like that when it's almost worse because you're supposed to be espousing compassion and care and love, and it's now just like rules and guilt and trying to pretend to be something that you're not so that people don't judge you for showing up in Birkenstocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are you talking about? Yeah, I think it's to me it's this idea of like church as object. So you're like church as object. And I think then if you're taking part in a church situation where like church is being seen as object, it creates people that are seeing themselves as objects that need to be polished accordingly. And well, I guess what I mean by that of like church as object, it's like it's about the lighting, it's about exactly what pastor's wearing, it's about, which is a very modern church thing, it's about the very, very high-end and expensive audio and video equipment that are used during the worship for the production. And right, none of those things are inherently bad. If the lighting's really bad, it's going to suffer. Like the environment's going to suffer. If you can't hear a pastor when he's preaching, or when they are preaching, it's like yeah, it's terrible. So it's not inherently bad that we have these things in church spaces. It's more that, and I've done this before, I'm more interested in the product of church instead of actually believing what we're talking about in the room. I walk out feeling like nothing's happened, and I think nothing happens as much in those spaces.
Tell me a little bit more about how you understand the difference there, the product versus something more substantive.
Yeah, I want to bring up an example. The person I know like has a background in theater, which I think helps them very, very much so in the presentation of church up front. I think it's a net positive, absolutely. But what I think happens is it turns into making sure that you're the joyful pastor up front. I am the joyful, smiling, lovely pastor. And that day they're tired and they're not very happy. And that's the thing. If you're tired and not very happy and you stand up in front of your congregation and act that way, that's bad. There's like such a nuance here, but it's like, I feel
and
like
people can tell
person there, talking to me. And it's this feeling of like, if the pastor and the congregation actually really genuinely felt and believed the words they were singing in the hymns, there'd be people doing cartwheels around the sanctuary. Like people would be like on the front lawn doing like backflips and like snow angels and stuff, like because if you genuinely believed these things and let the feeling move around, like I think everybody would be completely changed. But we don't live in that world because that's not how these things work. The difference in it for me is like, it's so annoying to say a feeling, but maybe a better way to say it is, I think some Sunday mornings at church are the almost volunteer things. This is what I mean by that. Like, it's like the Easter, or no, the Christmas pageant that some churches put on. They ask for volunteers when people show up. Not everyone's really into that. Very few are a lot of the time. So then you get a bunch of almost volunteers where pastor kind of corners them and like, they're like, do you want to be Mary? And they're like, no, but okay. So you end up in this space where everyone's just a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're watching uncomfortable people. It's like, everyone's like, yeah, Christmas. Like, I don't, but you got to do the pageant. It's like, there's that kind of energy in church sometimes where everybody kind of
all the time.
And then the other energy is like, pastors talk about something they care about. And it's not that simple, I guess, but is it? I don't actually know. I just know sometimes, man, it like works.
I mean, and you've always been very tuned in to other people's emotions, the emotions of a space, your own emotions. Enneagram 2, for those keeping track at home. But you're right. So some people can't pick up on it as easily as you. But I think what you're saying is really profound, is that I think the people who really believe this stuff or really care about it are the most effective. And yeah, like all of these beautiful pieces of music that have stood the test of time, that give expression to this ancient faith, these songs that have been passed down and that we're still singing today. Like there's so much emotional metadata. Is that a good way to talk about it? Like kind of baked into all of this. And that if it's not there, right? Like, I mean, the organist at one of my churches prior to being here was an engineer. And then she learned to play organ, or she knew how to play organ. And it was just so obvious of like, played the notes, like did exactly what was on the page. No shaded engineers, but like really great musicians bring an emotional piece to whatever they're playing. And you feel that maybe in a way you can't fully describe, but especially in a church setting where we're talking about mystical things, I think that really, really, really matters. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, like the theater person, like you're saying too, I wonder about if that like how effective that is, because in this, right, like if that can be a good thing of fake it till you make it. I don't know. I just how do you see that play out? Like on the days when it goes well, or does it not ever go well?
I think the biggest, most obvious one is that more people spend time at coffee hour after. If your church does coffee hour, not everyone does. And if you don't do coffee hour, it's just sort of like more people standing around the sanctuary chatting. And that's not 100% of the time rule. It's just something I've noticed more and more. Or maybe I notice it because I hang around longer. It actually feels like we as a community like did something together. And now there's this, it's almost like a little teeny portal gets opened when like we all get to touch that a little bit in worship, where then it's like, then I'm talking to this guy, Kevin, after a Lent service, because I felt like, well, Adam Aarons was preaching, and like I felt like he really like got there with everybody. And there's probably like 20, 30 people there. And there I am after talking to this guy, Kevin, and he was talking about like his experience when his parents died. And I'm like, yeah, it's like, my mom died last year, and it was like the most confusing thing I've been through in my entire life so far. And I've never met this guy before. And there I am talking for 30 minutes with this guy, Kevin. And it's like really helpful. Like it's this old, like a little bit older than me, probably like, 8-10 years older than me. And genuinely walked out of the room feeling more prepared to deal with the grief in me. And I wasn't planning on it, wasn't expecting it. It was something, it's very Lenty. Adam did a very Lenty sermon, but not like sad or anything, but just sort of like, no, it's important to, dive into dark place.
I love what you're saying. Like it's he as worship leader and preacher created a space that allowed something else to open up afterwards. And maybe that's really the purest goal of what a church service is trying to do, is it's not the product, like you were saying, that we just need to like appreciate and look at how impressive we are, but like, no, what can this open up in people's hearts for later? Right. And I take the greatest when people tell me like, oh, I thought I was still thinking about your sermon on Wednesday. I'm like, thank you. Like that's the highest compliment you could pay me, is that something I said actually resonated longer than just that minute, right? Like it's not just, it's because it's not entertainment. If it was just entertainment, then I would take a totally different approach to it. But hopefully I say something that gets into your brain and your heart a little bit, that makes you need to reflect or even talk about it with me or somebody else afterwards. And it just feels like we get this all wrong, because we get so caught up in the game of it, in the competition of it, in the survival mindset of it all. Like, no, like we got to keep the doors open and we got to balance the budget. Like, how are we going to bring more people in?
Yeah.
All right. Like, let's entertain them. That's like, spirituality is not marketable. Even though we're trying very hard, but it's boredom, to go back to your story. Like learn how to be bored. And oh my gosh, like your boredom is the prophet of it's the Holy Spirit speaking to you. All the stuff that you want to ignore and you're too uncomfortable to sit with. Yeah, if you could just learn to be bored for 10 minutes, you'd be amazed at what God is trying to say to you in that space. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, and see enough value in that space to feel motivated to give, and obviously giving to ministry is really the the beating heart of how these things get maintained. But yeah, it's to backtrack the tiniest little bit. It's like you said somebody heard your sermon on Sunday and they were still thinking about it or talking about it on Wednesday. Now, to me, it begs the question was the thing they were talking about on Wednesday, the thing that stuck with them for days, was that Nate's idea, or was it you actually talking about the truth in the gospel for a second? Like because it's something, I think this is the mystical bits coming out. So if I lose people, I'm sorry, but it's like genuinely touching it creates something. I don't know what it is. I don't have a word for it. I think maybe we use God's and that sort of works, but like, was the idea just an idea of Jesus, of a very, very close disciple that was so close to God that like it somehow snuck out into the room when you were talking about it? That stuff gets me like pumped, where it's like, did you tap into something that somebody way back in the lineage tapped into, and then it touched somebody else further on in the lineage as they're learning, but it's just all this magical, mystical, same idea of something powerful. I lose language for it. It's like, I am fascinated with that stuff and get really excited. And I think that's what keeps people in the room after. It's like, you got to talk to somebody. It's like, you feel the stuff, you don't understand exactly what's going on, but there's like, or you might not be totally aware it's happening in you. And then you kind of just want to hang around everybody a little more. It's like,
and it's funny how we miss all that too, of like the touching source, or however you're trying to say it, right? Like that we're getting, God is entering the room. Like the way that preaching was taught to me from a theological lens was, you as the preacher are the conduit, and Christ is the word of God. And so when you preach, it is Christ walking amongst the congregation, right? That I feel like that gets at exactly what you're saying. Just like, it's not what I'm doing, it's something more happening there. And when Christ touches your heart, it makes you want to talk to somebody else about it, or it exposes something within you that you need to process with another person. Like it creates community if we're willing to be attentive to it. Because in the same sense too, so often church is just about like, no, I got to look good. Like I can't admit any sort of flaws, or that I'm struggling with anything. Like that's not okay. So I will just ask you how your weekend is going. Beat.
Yeah, but I'm a good boy. Are you a good boy? I'm a really good boy. You're a good boy? Yeah, I'm a good boy. I never think anything weird or obsess selfishly about things or desire things that are questionable. I'm just a good boy. All right. So all the music I actually listen to, all the shows and movies I love to watch, all the language I use in my every single day life, I leave in the parking lot before I go to church. Now, we're living in a community. You can't be an animal, when you, who cares? God loves me exactly as I am. I'm just going to act this way. No, you're in public. You're with your community. Like there's a balance there, but
there is a balance.
Fascinated by that too. It's just like, everybody shut up. Everybody shut up. Be a good boy and girl. I don't love that.
Well, that's so often how religion gets expressed. And what we think it's for is like, no, this will teach good morals. And like, yeah, it does. But it also, it does, because it teaches you how to be a human being. And that has to be the driving force to start. Because it's just about being a good boy, and like, do this. That has a shelf life, and it will just destroy you. I'm fully confident. Like that is only a path towards guilt and shame.
It's
full stop.
Another empty box to open. It's like, I finally did the business and have more than enough money. I open that box and I feel nothing. I got to make dinner. It's like, I'm the good boy. I'm the good girl. I'm dressed perfectly. I did worship. I said, Our Father. And you open the box and it's like, it's like, well, religion and God and Jesus must be nonsense because it didn't work. It's
Right.
because perceiving church and worship and stuff as a product, as an object, it'll never really work. And I wonder if you as a preacher and as a church leader end up in this predicament, which Ram Dass talks about, where you seem to be somebody that's very interested in being a conduit, this like mystical experience of bringing God energy, Jesus energy through you, through the gospel into the room to create something in people's hearts. I think that's amazing. But Ram Dass says that the moment you go, I am the conduit, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I am Nate the pastor. It doesn't work. It like happens in this.
No, well, and it happens. I think one of the things I'm picking up on, it's always been a part of my sermons, but I'm really picking up on people saying they appreciate it, which is good. It's like, I am not the hero. And any story that I tell, it is about like something really dumb that I've done. But that humanizing of it and that realization that like, hey, we're all in this together. And I'm not any better at this than you are, but I at least can like kind of tell you where this, where the stumbling blocks might be based on my experience. And yet, and you're going to tell me the same stumbling blocks too. I just think like our relationship with religious leaders is changing, and it's for the good. Because 50 years ago, it was just, that person's untouchable. They're so close to God. And then I think it's really important for this to be humanized, because the way that it used to work too is just like, no, like that the pastor is the one who believes for me. Right. So it's like, I don't actually believe this stuff, but I'm glad to know that, because it's always like an old white male is like, that he can do this for me. Look at how devout he is.
Yeah.
Like, great.
The exclusively male pastors are just like, I hate myself.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, because they don't get to be a human being. They just are playing a role. They don't get to be human. They just are playing a role. And I think, like I said, so much about what religion is trying to help us do is learn how to be human, and starting there, not starting with morals, like that will come, because as you learn how complex this existence is, you start saying, like, okay, wow, like we're all doing the best we can. And so I'm going to have some real compassion for this other person and not treat them like garbage, because they're struggling just as much as I am, and their life's just as complicated as mine. It's not just about me.
Yeah, it helps a lot. That remembering that helps a lot, and remembering that in a neutral way, nobody really cares about what's going on with me. Like my friends care. My friends care about me. They check in on me with, after my mom died, and just like we all hang out and have that community. It's great. But like at the end of the day, I'm not thinking about Adam and Jeff and Andrea and Liz when I go to bed at night. I'm thinking about me and my wife and my son. It's like
Yeah.
Which is that, but it's like, yeah, the church thing creates an environment where, yeah, you can remember sort of that priority list of, yeah, it feels so much better to not be mean, man.
Yeah.
And then the layer that can get complicated in that. And I think in some church circles where being mean and harming people and hurting people, you can kind of throw a blanket over of just like, well, it's scriptural. It's backed by God that you don't have rights. It's backed by God that we shouldn't trust women in leadership. What do they really have to offer besides being a wife and being a mother? And it's like, but how intensely and violently convenient that God is so interested in what you want. And that's like the most annoying, humbling part of the spiritual journey for me. If I'm going to follow this train of thought, it's like,
yeah,
I don't like that I'm not the hero, man. I want to be somebody you admire. I want to be the guy. At the end of the day, I'm scared to say this in a slightly more public situation, but it's like, no, I want to be the special boy in front. I think that's why I almost became a pastor. And I'm very thankful for my community and kind of having enough self-awareness to realize it's not what I actually wanted. I didn't actually want to minister in that context.
Wow.
And I get to minister my own ways now, which I feel the perfect fit, like a glove, baby. But it's so weird that you can, cover up actually pretty heinous values with religion itself. But
and it's so funny how we don't. Well, I just don't understand how people don't see that. And in particular, like speaking of the Bible, it tried to warn us about this. That the very first, like Adam and Eve and the forbidden fruit, like the temptation is, if you eat this, you will become like God. And that's what they found compelling. And that's why they ate the fruit, because they wanted to become like God. And then their eyes were opened and they realized that this was terrible, what they had just done.
Yeah.
And like that's the whole story. And that's what Jesus is always like yelling at the Pharisees. He's like, hey, like, can you stop pretending like you're so special and actually care about people rather than just caring about how to lord your specialness over other people? Like that's literally every interaction they seem to ever have.
Mhm.
And yet we have not figured this out yet at all. That like the only, I don't want to say the only thing that matters, but humility is a very, very important lost art.
Yeah.
And it solves a multitude of troubles.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's something I'm relearning, or maybe I'm unlearning things to be in a bit more of that humble state. It's hard. Because to me, sometimes I feel like, well, what's the point? If I don't, like I said before, it's like, if I don't get to show people that I finally made it with these amazing behind the scenes photos on these big commercial sets, and we're all in our like fancy black clothes, and if I don't get to show people that, like, and everyone goes, wow, you're a special boy. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And that's why I have a therapist. So, like, but that's the thing, is like, luckily I have found an amazing therapist, and like, he also reminds me of a lot of similar things that church does. And, yeah, it's like, I'm not the only one in the room, man. You got to wait in line for the bread and wine. Yeah. Or it's not even like, when you take a step back, it's not that I'm waiting in line to get bread and wine. It's that we are taking communion. And I think it's like, I do my best to take it with me, to where it's like, even in traffic, even waiting at the cafe, if you don't drink cortados from your barista, you're a bozo. But like, we're all just here doing our thing, and everyone's going through that struggle together and all this stuff. And then somebody yesterday on the way home from our friend's house did this to me to get me through an intersection. I saw him in my rearview mirror, and yeah, I made a super annoying gesture back and was crazy. And I don't know. I used to be so like younger Nick, when I was like doing church stuff with you more. It's like, I was so interested in being the good boy, the special boy, the guy doing it right. And now I just really don't care. And I still feel bad about that a little bit. I feel weird about it.
It's an interesting balance, because again, you don't want it to slip into nihilism of just like nothing matters. Um, I think though the third way in this is that what matters is being vulnerable enough to admit that like you're not good at this all the time.
Oh, no way. No
And
way.
that's you speak about communion. Pete Rollins, who I keep trying to tell you to listen to, he talks about communion as a gathering around the death of God, which it is, right? Like that's the whole story we're telling, is like, on the night Jesus was betrayed, he's like, this is my body, this is my blood. Like there's no articulation of the resurrection in communion, which is really interesting. But he takes it like a step further, like from a psychological angle too, of like, hey, we're all here because like we're in the depths of despair. Like God has died. Like that is the deepest moment of despair that one could come to. And yet we're being fed. And yet, like somehow there is a presence still tying us together. And like frankly, like the presence tying us together is our shared struggle with despair.
Yeah.
But like that's really beautiful, and that's really powerful to understand, like, that's what I think church is trying to do, is to say, like, yeah, like, you're not good. You do struggle. Right? Like, let's start with the confession, because we know that no one has made it from last week to this week without needing to do this.
Hmm.
So we're going to start with that and admit, it's the same with like AA. Part of the power of AA is everyone starting in the beginning, like, hey, I'm Nate and I'm alcoholic. Like, that's how you start the meetings, is everyone sharing that vulnerability that they're not good enough. And that's where the healing starts to take hold. And church is trying to do something very, very similar for us, but we've dressed it up and turned it into a product and turned it into just be the good boy and remember that you're special.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like, maybe none of us are special, but that's what unites us. And now we can care for one another and grow and heal.
Yeah, we're not special. We're selfish and hurt people when we mean to, and a lot of the times when we don't mean to, and that's good enough.
And we're doing the best we can. We are doing the best we can.
Yeah, like, genuinely, I like it's, and that's why I think marriage is a glorious spiritual and growth tool if you do it a little more intentionally. I haven't been married that long, so don't listen to me. I don't know. Like, it's sure, intentionality sure helps there, but hurting people when I don't mean to is like the name of the game for me. It's like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I think the vast majority of people don't want to hurt others. Absolutely. I genuinely trust that. And I'm gonna, and then it's up to me to get humble and be like, I'm really sorry. And I think sometimes culture is in the business, especially with men and young men. It's like, I hurt people because I don't care. And I'm big dog, big alpha guy. It's like, ugh. Like, it's not going to work. That doesn't work either. Being the big alpha in charge, not caring. That doesn't work either. Empty box, baby. Another empty, like, and honestly, with the empty box thing, I'm like clamoring for a box filled with something. It's like, my life's so different now. I'm trying to manage my time. Everything that I've ever dreamed of is happening, and I just feel crazy, like, and yeah, church is the thing that I swear when I open the box, there's at least something there. I don't know what's there. Maybe it's more saying, like, when I open the God box, it feels like there's something there, but I don't entirely know what's there. But man, I love taking communion. Oh my God. It's like the best thing ever.
Oh my God is exactly what you should say when you take communion.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's that? Yeah. I love ritual and love that stuff. So it's very me, but I feel the power. It's like, I truly believe that Jesus broke bread and poured wine for everybody. So to do a ritual harkens back to God themselves holding a loaf of bread and breaking off little pieces, while there's somebody holding a loaf of bread and breaking off little pieces for me. I really, really love it. And I guess maybe I can't entirely put my finger on why, but maybe that's why. It's just, I feel tied to something. It's like, it is an identity that actually makes sense. Part of this thing. Like, it doesn't right now, like, Nick is a filmmaker, like Nick is a dad, makes more sense. Nick is a husband, makes more sense. But like, I can't, I struggle with that identity now, because as I'm like into entering middle life now, I kind of get the midlife crisis thing where it's like, who am I? I spent 15 years developing who I thought I was in my high school years and all through my 20s and in my early 30s. Like, now I honestly don't entirely know who I am. I know I'm a dad. I know I'm a husband. I know I make videos for my job. But that entire time, even since I was like a literal baby, I always felt a part of something like church that gave me some level of feeling like a real identity. I am, like, the language I think we put to is like, I am a child of God. Yeah. But it's like, it like transcends that for me. It's like, it's the community. It's the
ritual.
Yeah. If I show up, I get to take the bread that the disciples took from God themselves too. Yeah. It works. I wish, if anybody's listening, I wish I could tell you why. It's I feel like it's
But that's
behind.
part of the, I don't know, like you're tapped into it though. I think that's, I don't know. And maybe I'm just overly optimistic. I think it's true for everyone. We just have so much pain or shame that we are currently struggling with that pulls us away from recognizing it and from understanding like that there is just this like deeper element to reality, because that's what you're talking about. Like it's the mystical piece of all this. You can't explain it exactly because we're talking about God. Like we can't explain God, and yet it pulls at you. And right, like you're not the first one to say that. Like, what is it? There's a God-shaped hole in the heart of every man, blah blah blah. It's like from like the 4th century or something. And different people have been saying the same exact things. Like it pulls at you because it's a part of the fabric of your being. You know, this human endeavor is so complicated and weird, and yet there's something bigger about it. And we can just get so caught up in our own self-importance or our own feelings of guilt or just like trauma pulling us off in all sorts of weird directions. There's so many reasons why, good reasons why people can't tap into that. And yet what spiritual practice always does is give you a chance to slow down enough to touch that piece that you were talking about earlier, right? Like that,
Oh yeah.
that larger truth.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. I mean, it's whatever that is, touching it works. And that's, it's funny to start a conversation with just like, what does it look like when church is like bringing you into that space? And what does church look like when it's kind of not? I don't want it to turn into something that's like, well, let's make sure we build church and church programming that we got to touch it all the time and touch this mystical space. And because that's not like how it works either. It's like, you know, you can't preach.
It turns it into a product.
Yeah. It's like, exactly. It's like, it turns into object. Like you can't preach a truly tuned in channel-y sermon. I'm the vessel if you're too busy being the vessel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I like this stuff is like, I don't have an answer really. I don't have an exact path because Lord, I've tried a lot of them, you know, and a handful of paths that were not healthy at all to try to feel that sensation of, you know, the crispy cold glass of water in the middle of the desert, kind of like, oh yeah, like it kind of.
But I think to tie a bow on it, I think what we are naming is authenticity. Like that's kind of just the most important piece. And that ebbs and flows because it's hard to be 100% authentic all the time. I don't think anybody can do that because we're constantly playing these little games. But when we try and turn it into an object, into a product, when we try to just play the part rather than showing up as the person, it all gets messed up, and it's going to happen. But yeah, I appreciate you kind of in the most polite way, roundabout way possible, telling me that my question was dumb. Like, yeah, you can't program for this. Like that's kind of the point.
No, not dumb, not dumb. No, it's mostly a roundabout way of saying that 2 out of 10 of your sermons are just not that good. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So one of the last things I'll say is like this feeling of turning church into a product, not touching these spaces into like an achievement or anything, all this stuff. I think we have to be like super duper aware of like how our culture implicates a lot of how religion plays out. You know, we want perfect branding, clean branding. We want to sell this beautiful product that'll change your life. And if we're not selling a product that changes your life, there's no way it'll go out the door. So we have to do that perfect scheduling, worship, floors swept, everything. It reminds me of years ago, I got hired to film an Indian wedding. And, you know, I normally shoot, you know, a lot of white people's weddings and they're very programmed. There's a planner. It's very, you know, it's like if we're 3 minutes behind, the planner's like kicking down doors and trying to find us. When I shot this Indian wedding, like 99% of the people there were Indian. The whole thing was culturally Indian through and through, to where the priest showed up like 45 minutes late and like things were forgotten by the families, like objects that were going to be a part of the ceremony. And like people were just kind of like, oh, I'm going to stand up and stretch like in the middle of it. And like I was in the back running a camera, just like, oh my God, just like losing my mind about how this is falling behind, and this must be crazy. Everybody must be super uncomfortable in the crowd, and like, you know, it's 300 people there. Oh my God, nobody cared. Everyone's like, yeah, we're at a wedding. We're all here like doing wedding stuff, and I'm in the back sweating bullets. Like, oh my God, this is so brutal to watch. But all the other 300 odd people in the room were like, this is a beautiful wedding. Yeah, I'm trying to be exceedingly aware of like the cultural impact on my spiritual practice of like, you know, how Western and especially American to be like, well, if I don't hit it today, if I don't hit my gains spiritually, like, then it's all for nothing. We're like, the other more than half of the world is like, we're all, I don't know, we're all like, we're here doing stuff, you know, and we'll see what happens. You know, man, that sounds pretty cool. And the ceremony was over 2 hours. So I think pros and cons, but you know, it's the remembering that.
No, I mean, it's funny. My church that I was pastor at in Philadelphia, I loved that we didn't care about the timing of it at all. There was no stress. Now we only had one service, and it was just like, yeah, like if this is going to take an hour and 40 minutes, okay, like whatever. Like you could function that place because the entire community had the same mindset. Whereas here, we have 2 services, and so the first one really has to be done in 60 minutes or it's free. But seriously, like you know that like people got places to go, you know, things to do, and you feel it in the room too of like, oh gosh, like this is going on. What are we doing? I hate that anxiety exists, and I don't know. It's also, we can have 2 services. I can get home in time to watch the kickoff. Like those are great things.
It's still all happening in
both
reality. It's a true full circle moment as we're wrapping up. We're at the beginning. We're like, how do you balance this like very capitalistic idea in our culture and the reality that people just want to like sit and chill for a minute at the end of the day? Same thing. It's like authenticity is awesome. Second worship starts at 11. You know, it's like time. You know, it's like,
exactly.
You know, it's trying to find that balance is, I don't think, ever gonna happen. But again, not in an idealistic way. I just think like if my idealistic version of reality happened, everything would crumble. Like, so the garbage wouldn't get picked up, etc. So it's sort of
exactly. Like we're stop believing that there's some utopia out there, and relax a little bit about what today looks like. I think that's kind of the piece of it. You've been super generous with your time, and your son's about to wake up from his nap, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
So
he just sat up.
Oh,
sometimes he lays back down, but I don't know. That's the thing is.
No, we will let you go. You've been super generous. This has been awesome. I love you so much, Nick. I miss you so much. This is just the best. Thank you for sharing your heart and your insight, as you always do. Do you want to plug your film company in case people want to look you up?
Of course, because I am a special boy. Again, my name's Nick Stroczkowski. I own Arclight Creative. We say we're based out of Buffalo, but we work all in the US right now. So turns out it's mostly East Coast, West Coast, because that's the production world. But yeah, I do a lot of work with the summer camps and churches for promotion and storytelling, but also a lot of commercial work too. So feeling lucky to do it.
Well, Nick, thank you. Come to Denver sometime. I'd love to see you. Say hi to your family for me. And you, dear listener, thanks for watching, listening. Share this with family and friends who might get a kick out of this long rambling conversation. I appreciate it. Stay in peace, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Together for Good podcast. If you'd like more resources for your walk of faith, please visit our website, bethany-denver.org, or download our mobile app by searching Bethany Connect in your phone's app store.